Hai semua, hari ini saya akan berkongsi tentang cara mendaftar pembelajaran Reading Seed dan langkah menyertai modul pembelajaran. Untuk langkah pertama, buka enjin carian seperti Google dan type Open Learning Reading Seed. Kemudian, klik pada pautan paling atas. Selepas itu, klik pada butang Join Now. Untuk langkah kedua, di sini anda akan diberi pilihan sama ada menggunakan Microsoft, Facebook atau akaun email. Tapi sebaiknya saya sarankan anda untuk menggunakan akaun email. Langkah ketiga, anda diminta untuk mengisi butiran lengkap sebelum memulakan modul pembelajaran. Pembelajaran ini mengandungi 12 modul. Setiap modul haruslah dilengkapkan dan anda juga harus membuka setiap audio yang disertakan dalam modul. Selepas habis setiap modul, anda dikehendaki untuk memberi komen. Untuk langkah keempat, setelah selesai semua modul pembelajaran, anda dikehendaki untuk mengisi maklumat penilaian. Akhir sekali, anda akan memperolehi sijil setelah selesai semua modul pembelajaran. Kiranya anda mempunyai anak berumur 3 tahun ke bawah, anda boleh menuntut Kids Reading Seed di mana-mana cawangan pustaka yang berdekatan. Anda dikehendaki untuk membawa sijil dan buku rekod kesihatan anak untuk tuntutan. Selamat mencoba! Hai semua, hari ini saya akan berkongsi Hai semua, hari ini saya akan berkongsi tentang cara mendaftar e-pembelajaran Reading Seed dan langkah menyertai modul pembelajaran. Untuk langkah pertama, buka enjin carian seperti Google dan type Open Learning Reading Seed. Kemudian, klik pada pautan paling atas. Selepas itu, klik pada butang Join Now. Untuk langkah kedua, di sini anda akan diberi pilihan sama ada menggunakan Microsoft, Facebook atau akaun email. Tapi sebaiknya saya sarankan anda untuk menggunakan akaun email. Langkah ketiga, anda diminta untuk mengisi butiran lengkap sebelum memulakan modul pembelajaran. Pembelajaran ini mengandungi 12 modul. Setiap modul haruslah dilengkapkan dan anda juga harus membuka setiap audio yang disertakan dalam modul. Selepas habis setiap modul, anda dikehendaki untuk memberi komen. Untuk langkah keempat, setelah selesai semua modul e-pembelajaran, anda dikehendaki untuk mengisi maklumat penilaian. Akhir sekali, anda akan memperolehi e-sijil setelah selesai semua modul e-pembelajaran.
Okay, good morning to all participants. Welcome to today's virtual Sarawakiana workshop by Pustaka Negeri Sarawak. Okay, today's workshop is a virtual Sarawakiana workshop, Zendala Art with Mr. Aaron Chiu. Okay, allow me to introduce myself. Okay, my name is Karen Angelina, and I'm an assistant librarian here in Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, Cebu. Okay, as for today's Sarawakiana workshop, joining together with us an individual who is very knowledgeable, talented, and passionate about Zendala art. Okay, here we have Mr. Aaron Chiu Wei Lee from Cebu, Sarawak. He is a lecturer at a local university at University College of Technology Sarawak, also known shortly as UCTS. Okay, Mr. Aaron is known for creating Zendala art. For those who have never heard of Zendala, a Zendala is a hybrid of mandala circle and Zentangle art. Zen meaning relax and mandala means wholeness. So combined together, we have Zendala. Okay, for today, you are very fortunate because Mr. Aaron will guide you on how to create your own Zendala art using different kinds of motifs. Today, we're specializing on Sarawakian motifs. Okay. Okay. So before we start, I would like to note to the viewers on Facebook and YouTube that if you have any questions, you may leave your questions in the comment section. We will forward those questions to the speaker during the Q&A session. Okay. And so, without further ado, let us invite Mr. Aaron to begin the virtual workshop. Okay. Over to you, Mr. Aaron.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. First thing first, I would like to ask how many of you actually knows how to draw or actually draw? You can give me a reaction, a thumbs up or a raise hand if you think that you can draw or if you ever heard of Zendala before. Anyone? Or everyone a bit quiet today? Okay, so like Miss Karen said, what I specialize in or what I am good at is actually something called the Zendala. This piece is actually a mask where this was a Zentangle piece that you can see all the Zentangle patterns found inside this mask here. So it was more of an experimentation of adding patterns into different things like maybe a wood ball or like a spoon.
Ні. Мя?
Yeah,
Ừ.
where yeah? Anya.
Sorry, can you please mute,
Thật là
ma'am? Okay, so this morning I'm just going to share with you. I started off, even though when I'm a graduate from architecture school, one of my weaknesses was actually hand drawing. I was not good at I was not good with my drawing with my hand because I came from the science side. So I keep telling people that I'm not good at drawing. I was never good at drawing until I started doodling just for fun when I started working, thinking that I need to improve my sketching skills in order for me to communicate with my clients better so that I can show them through my drawings what do I want to tell them, what am I planning to design for them. I'm actually more comfortable with digital like 3D modeling and all. So when I started off drawing, really hand drawing back in 2016, and it all started off with going on to coming back from KL to Cebu via Air Asia. Then I saw this in-flight magazine, and then they talk about Zendala, Zentangle. So curious as I am, I wanted to find something fun to do, especially when I go back to work in KL. And then so I actually Facebook and Googled where can I find the nearest Zentangle class. So my first Zentangle class was in 2016, and I really didn't know what it was. I really didn't know what to expect. I just walked in with an open mind and then just to try and see actually what I can learn from it. Okay, so I went into the class, and then the first thing that I actually learned was how simple it was, and what it actually what Zendala actually is, and how can I actually apply it in my real life. Then I realized Zentangles are actually not the Zentangle class taught me that it was not about learning how to draw, or it didn't teach me about it didn't teach me about how to improve my drawing. It didn't teach me about how do I use different equipment to draw like perfect lines and everything. I actually found out that the class was really about learning how to use art as a relaxation tool. It was more of like it's like yoga, but more for the mind. So what I actually learned in the class is how do I use patterns, and then how to control that kind of perfectionism in me, that I need to create everything that I create must be perfect. That some of these kind of artworks are more on when in a, what you feel in a day. What kind of patterns can you think of? What do you remember? You don't have to think, you just draw, because it becomes a muscle memory when you start drawing all these patterns that you get to really, you just set yourself free. So one of the things about Zentangle, one of the rules of Zentangle is you are not allowed to use an eraser. You are not allowed to erase any mistakes that you did, but to embrace the mistakes and then change the patterns according to that. And then another thing about Zentangle, the Zentangle class taught me that is that sometimes when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, especially when we have to come up with a amazing art, right? Like every piece and pieces must be perfect. But when we start doing that, we tend to forget to breathe. So one of the interesting things about the Zentangle class was it taught me how to, when in terms of when I start panicking or when I'm starting to feel stressed, I can use Zentangle to actually as an exercise to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out as I draw. So in the end, it felt that when I start making mistakes, I'm okay with mistakes, and then everything is just drawn by the pen, and everything is just there. When I make a mistake, there's no point erasing. You just keep going on and you keep just drawing one stroke at a time. You get better and better. And then I realized as I draw. So this was actually the first week in. I went back with after the class, I went back with 4 pieces of small little artworks. Then after that, it became 5. And then it became 6. And then eventually I found out something called the mandala, especially when if you're in KL, you see a lot of these mandala arts, the sand arts during Deepavali. Then I went to do a little bit more research on what mandala is. And then mandala and like Zentangle is more of the Zen type of art. So I decided to mess around with it. I found out that Zendala is a bit more structured. It's more geometric. It's a bit more controlled. So that is how the whole idea of, maybe I can try to combine these two. I love the patterns of Zentangle. I love how I can use it for relaxation. But in a way, as an architect or as a designer, there's this kind of inner perfectionism that I cannot be out of control all the time, that I need to find certain kind of control. So that is where I started breaking the rules of the entangles. I started to remember some of the mathematics that I learned using how can you use compass, how do you draw circles, how do you divide a circle, and all these kind of things. So yeah, if you think that you can throw away everything after SPM, you are wrong, because you can always use this even as in your hobby. So this is where it started to evolve. The more I draw, the more I realized that the hecticness of working in a firm, in an office, you need to deal with so many people. You need to deal with your bosses. You need to deal with your colleagues. You need to deal with your clients, and it gets kind of stressful. So it is kind of nice that when every day when I go home, after work, then I can spend time to just start sketching, and I can start doing Zentangles, and I can start doing mandalas. And then eventually I started adding color. And then after I added color, I felt that, I can do more. I want to challenge myself more. So I started to go into bigger pieces. And from the 10 by 10 that we started off till this A3 piece. And then I felt that, okay, since I already started doing this, I already started enjoying the process, enjoying how to do it. I started looking at the things around me, and then I started drawing on everything that I can find. So the next thing that I started to draw on was wanted to just try to experiment with what I can do. And then some of these are just normal wooden balls that I can find. I found this in Daiso. It was like 5 ringgit for 4 of these balls. So it started to just take things, whatever that I can find that is made of wood, that is made of metal, that is made of whatever. I'll just purchase it, and then I'll try the different markers, and I'll try the different tools to start drawing on these items. So this was actually one of my first big piece. This piece was an A3 size paper, and then it's a combination of many Zentangle patterns, and also a few mandalas in just one picture. So I will go into what Zentangle really is and what mandala really is soon. I'm just trying to share with you a little bit of my background and my artworks and what I have been doing, and then maybe give you an inspiration of what you can do right after this workshop. So another thing that I decided to try on was the mask. So it was kind of funny. It's creepy, but I thought it was kind of cool to do a Halloween mask and then just draw and then create this kind of very weird looking like tattoo kind of face. And then actually this was my first mask. I did it for fun, and a friend of mine told me, my friend who is a DJ thought that, this looks so cool, can you help me draw a mask so that when I go on stage I can wear that piece of mask? So that is where this piece came in. So it was more of a piece that he said it needs to be cool, and then it needs to be creepy, and it needs to feel that you are entrapped. So, and he was a Naruto fan at the time, so that is where all these patterns from the animes, the patterns from Zentangle came into this piece. And then it's sort of like, okay, I actually find enjoyment and I found relaxation doing all these kind of things. And then once you finish a piece, you feel like, I accomplished something. So I didn't start off as, I'm very good at it. It's almost a daily routine. It became part of my routine to just create an artwork per day, or an art piece, like work on a piece that even like this piece here, it took me like 4-5 days just to complete. And that is like 2-3 hours after work. When I reach home around 8, I'll draw till 11 or 12, and then after that I'll go to sleep. Then I realized that I can actually sleep better after doing all this kind of artwork. So I didn't need to rely on alcohol. I didn't need to rely on some people like sleeping pills. So this Zentangle became this kind of a natural relaxation method for you to be able to fall asleep. So here are some more artworks that was done. Actually, you can find all these in the link here below here on my Instagram, on my Facebook. I put up all my artworks in. I'm not doing this to earn money. I'm still a hobbyist artist. I don't consider myself as a professional yet. But this is a testament of what you can do if you just keep practicing every day. Don't be scared of making mistakes. You look at this piece and you think, everything is like drawn well, but there are actually a lot of mistakes and a lot of hide-ups. I hide a lot of things, like especially in the patterns of the peacock tail here. It used to be sort of like lines, but then I made a mistake. Then I just color the entire thing black to highlight the lines, to make it more contrast, make it pop. So when we start doing the artwork today, especially in this workshop, don't feel bad if you can't draw it immediately. I will try to guide you as easy as possible, how to do it as easily as possible, and then how to just breathe the exercise, do the breathing exercise, and then to help you with your time creating art. Another thing that you can do, like what Karen said, usually I will turn on music while I'm doing my artworks. It can range. They will recommend you to do to put on relaxation music, like this instrumental or classical music. But I tend to turn on Linkin Park or hard rock or rapping and all this kind of thing, especially when I'm in sort of an anger mood and then I just want to draw, and then it's still, the music still relaxes me and all this kind of thing. But since I can't do that here because a lot of the copyright issues, you can actually start turning on music in your own house. Find a music that actually helps you to relax, help you, music that you love. You can turn on Taylor Swift, you can turn on Justin Bieber, you can turn on any kind of music that you like in your own home, and then we can enjoy this session today. Another thing that you can do when we start this session is go get a cup of tea or get a cup of coffee. I usually, I would, if it wasn't for the COVID pandemic, I will usually have workshops in cafes because one, it teaches you how to not allow other people to distract you because there are so many people around. Two, usually I can also request cafes to turn on certain types of music for the workshops. And three, because of the environment that we are in, we usually have food and then we usually have drink. So it becomes a conversational workshop. Instead of me just talking and me just showing you, you can actually the participants can actually talk to me and I can share with you my experiences. So it's the same for today. You can come, you can message me you can ask me questions in the Q&A. You can ask me questions verbally here, but I don't want the overlapping of sound, so hopefully the typing will be enough. So as we move on, I realized that when we start talking about creating this kind of artworks, a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves. But one of the happiest things that I've seen are little children drawing. So that is where I started to incorporate some of the doodle elements into my art pieces. So try to imagine that you are not an adult, you are not working, and then you start just drawing like a child. Be free. Don't think too much. Just draw as something is as cutesy or as fun as possible. Think of doodles like how do you imagine a tree? You don't need to draw a perfect tree. You don't need to draw all these kind of like realistic kind of thing. I'm not a realistic artist. I can't draw realism. If you ask me, if you look into my Instagram, you look into my Facebook, you will see that there's not much attempts at realism in my drawings. A lot of the times I will go towards doodling and then Zentangle. So I love patterns. I love going around, especially after coming back to Cebu to work. I found out that our local culture our native culture is so interesting, with so many patterns, with so many stories that is not yet told. And then it's sad because I grew up in a public university, and yet the only three races that we learn about in school will be the Malay, the Indians, and the Chinese. But then what happens to Sarawak culture? What happens to our own native arts and native crafts? I visited longhouses. I talked to natives around. A lot of the craftsmen just gave up on doing the craft because it was not profitable, or they moved to cities because they need to find work and then for a living. So I started off combining both my doodles and my Zentangles, and then to come up with and then to explore local art. I tried to find books on this, but the only book that I was recommended was actually this book. It's called Basic Iban Designs. So I tried to study this, and then from here I learned a little bit more about the local native art, the patterns, and then the tree of life, and then I started applying that, and then incorporating sort of Zentangle patterns behind it. So it becomes like a fusion of Sarawak art and also Zentangle and Zendala arts. So from there, the only attempt that I did try was to draw, to use patterns as well to draw realistic, human images. So this is Dr. Mahathir. I'm not sure whether you can see on screen, but it was my attempt to just do portraits of people using patterns as well. But a lot of the times, most of my artworks still revolve around the Zendala. I will always go back to my roots in a way. I will go back to Zendalas and try to look at how to recreate them in a more localized way. How do I incorporate something like local themes and local ideologies and local stories into my artwork? And then when I started doing that, I think there are not many artists in Cebu, or not many even artists in Cebu. So I was surprised to one day be called to have a invitation by the SMC to do my first mural during the Cebu the mural festival of 2017. Yeah, so this was my first mural, and I decided to celebrate Sarawak by applying sort of like the Sarawak motifs into, and then including doodle images and the Zentangle images onto a wall. So I just treat it as having fun. So I hope that today, after this class, I will see more artists in Sarawak. I will see more hobbies in Sarawak, that we can start having this kind of conversation on let's create art. Let's just do it for fun. Let's beautify wherever we are. Let's beautify Sarawak with all these kind of artworks that we are doing. Yeah. So come, and then let's chit chat. Let's talk about art here today. Don't be shy. There's no. I learned that if you are shy, you will not learn. I learned that if you are shy, you won't make friends. So we can be friends. You can always ask me any kind of questions. So a lot of the things that I started doing was to start exploring Sarawakian style art, with mixing with different kind of styles, whether it be stylized humans or the out of proportion, big head, small body, but then with the motifs, or even trying to paint shoes in conjunction with Malaysia Day, with using the local motifs and all, and then also coming up with more and more kind of murals. This was for the second street art festival in Cebu. This piece is called Ibu Petiwiku, my motherland. So depicting the different animals that you can find in Sarawak, and also the mother in the form of a human, with her hair being the river and the forest, So this is where this started to play a lot with how do we start incorporating all these art forms into our daily things, into our artworks, from the florals of the Iban patterns. How can I use, and from even from my own culture, my Chinese culture, which I am not that knowledgeable about, you start looking at, these patterns, that patterns, they actually all sort of fit in together. They all come together in a way. They are all similar in a way, from the Indian arts to the Indian arts to Tibetan art as well, and then even to Islamic art. We start to see the connections between the art. Art is free. Art, there is no race in art. There is no religion in art. Art is something that we can use to express ourselves in, whether by faith or whether it is it's just for the pleasing of the eye kind of thing, for graphic kind of thing. So I find that when I start doing this kind of artworks, I love to look at the different cultures, the different history behind their art, especially when it comes to geometric art, because it slowly comes to, you can start seeing there are certain similar patterns that we have in our different cultures, and then how we are actually connected with each other, not separated from each other. Okay, so here are some of my other Zendala image, Zendala pieces. So these are all based on exploration and just trying to tell a different story. So you can read all these stories in my Instagram if you take a look through. A lot of them are based on the moon and the stars. And then for this piece, before I was invited to this piece was actually called Sarawakiana. Sarawakiana. So it is actually represented in the stars and the moon that we can find in our Malaysian flag and our Sarawakian flag. And actually it is held up by the two hornbills on the, I'm not sure whether you can see the two hornbills here. So this is my abstract tattoo version of a hornbill holding up the moon and the stars that represents our country. So it becomes like, this piece is more like a combination of everything that I have learned and actually what I enjoy about Zentangle and Zentangle, Mandala, and also Borneo kind of pattern arts. So let's go into what Zentangle is. Okay, so Zentangle is, if you like to draw patterns or doodles, with your pen and paper, you can learn to Zentangle. As the name implies, it is a Zen-like way of creating images through repetitive patterns and shapes. Okay, hold on. I need to change something here. Okay, so Zentangle is a deliberate mark. The Zentangle way, you draw each mark consciously and deliberately. We are always making marks through our thoughts, our words, and our deeds in our lives. So like life, there is no eraser in life. So there is no actual eraser in Zentangle. However, in Zentangle and in life, you discover that even if you can make what it seems to be a mistake, you can then build on it, and then you can learn from that event to create a new pattern, and then you can go on, and then you can create unexpected and exciting new ways of doing your own pieces. So don't be afraid if you make mistakes today. Even though part of the stationery that I ask you to prepare is an eraser, this is more for the mandala and also to create the frame. It is not for you to erase your pattern. So this is something that there is no eraser in life. So don't worry so much about the mistakes that you do. I will also try to teach you how we can fix those mistakes, or how do I cover up those mistakes, or how do I change those mistakes and upgrade those mistakes into something more beautiful. So Zentangle is a combination of a lot of kind of patterns. It can be, it can look like it's together, but very different at the same time. You can create what we call you can create all these kind of frames, and then you can start putting in patterns into it. You can learn more patterns. Today we're only going to go for a basic few patterns, but you can of course go into a website that later I will share with you, and then inside there it teaches you, it's free. It will teach you all the different kind of patterns that you can learn. So today we only have 3 hours, so we will see how far we can go. I want to try to first start off with a Zentangle. How do we do a basic Zentangle piece? Then after that, we go into how do we do a mandala, and then after that, we combine them both together. One of the things to note, in order to teach mandala, you need to be a teacher. You need to be a certified CZT, a certified Zentangle teacher. So I'm not gonna teach you the full Zentangle class because I am not a certified teacher. I'm just a hobbyist, and I just want to share with everyone how you can actually apply this kind of patterns and this kind of ideology into your own art pieces. So there are elements of line. There are different kind of line that we're going to talk about. We have the curve, diagonal, the dash, the horizontal, the outline, straight, zigzag, perpendicular, wavy, parallel. Or you have you can fill in some of these lines to make it thicker. You can do you can create circles and then semicircles and all these kind of things. So the curvy lines or the spirals inside your artwork, which we will be learning about a lot more later. So one of the most other important things for us to know before we go into the class is the types of pen that we need to buy and why we buy those certain kind of pens. So the pen that I'm going to introduce to you, the felt tip pen, comes in different ranges from 0.05 mm to 1 or 2 m. So what does this do? This means the different thickness that you can find in the pen. So different kinds of thickness of the pen gives you different weight of the line, and this will help you to express certain elements. Like the more important elements, you use a thicker line. The less important, the more detail that you want to go, you use a smaller pen kind of thing. So later I'll show you the brand that I will use when we move into the drawing where you see my hands drawing. And then the next part of this is we are going to learn about the mandala. So what is the mandala? The word mandala is from the classical Indian language of Sanskrit. It is loosely translated to mean circle, so it's a circle art. However, a mandala is far more than a simple shape. It represents wholeness and can be seen as a model for organization structure of life itself, a cosmic diagram that reminds us of our relation to the infinite, the world that extended both beyond and within our bodies and mind. So from the micro to macro, we can find mandala, the circle with a center, in a lot of the natural world that we live in through our biology, our geology. Even if we go zoom into the atom, it is also a circle. It's based on the circle. So a lot of the things that we find in the natural world is based on this idea of the center. So like I said, it's a cross-cultural pattern. A mandala pattern can be found in Christianity, in Islam, in Chinese culture, in Indian culture, in even in Native American culture. You can find all these kind of geometric kind of circle arts in all the cultures that we can find in history and around the world. So that is why when we start doing this art, you can't put a label on it. You can't say that this is you can't say that, oh, okay, this is Chinese art. No, you can't say mandala is a Chinese art. You can't say mandala is a Christian art. You can't say geometric mandala art is a Indian art. No, you can't. So what we are going to learn today is how are we going to make this not a cultural thing, not a religious thing, but let's make this into a art thing. Okay, so we will go straight into our drawing session today. So first thing first, can I know if everyone has prepared the stationery? Has everyone prepared their stationery? So what you will need this morning is your pens. So I didn't tell you what kind of pens, but that's okay. If you have a ballpoint pen, you can just take out your ballpoint pen for today. You can use ballpoint pens. So what I have here is actually called the felt tip pen. So the tip of this pen, oops, let me see if I can find, okay, hold on. Okay, so this kind of pen that I'm holding here, the tip is made out of felt. So it's like a cloth-like thing. So this pen is a 0.8 pen. So 0.8 pen. So the lines tend to be thicker. Then I have the 0.3 pen that I use to outline. And then I tend to go use another one that is 0.1. which is even thinner. And then if I really am in the mood to do very detailed drawings or very detailed line work, I get the smallest one is 0.05. So it's a super thin, super delicate, thick pen. It's super thin. Okay, so today what I need you to prepare is your pens, a pencil, preferably a HB or 2H, an eraser, a ruler. What this is a compass. So traditionally, if the ones that you find in the stationery store is the one that comes with a pen, but this is a pencil or pen. But then the one that I have here is something that you can actually loosen it up, and then you can actually put a pen inside here. So I know this is something that we don't usually find or we don't usually buy in town, or you cannot find in town. But then there is one that I can find. I can tell you, for those who are in Cebu or in Sarawak, you can actually go for this brand called Matte, right? So this is a very simple compass, and it's not as accurate as the one that I have here. This because I tend to draw a lot, so I want it to be as accurate as I can, so I get something that is more sturdy. But this, for especially if you do not want to spend too much here, you can actually get this Matte, this brand of compass, and then you can still put in a pen inside here or pencil here. So even if you have a compass today, it's okay. If it's just a pencil, we can just learn the basics of using a pencil and a compass first. Okay, so there are no worries. And another thing that is very important is your paper. Okay, so your paper, the paper that I use is actually called cotton paper. It is for watercolor and it's also for acrylic painting. But the reason why we use this kind of paper for our Zentangle art or to create art is because, one, it absorbs ink very well, and there is no smudges, there is no bleeding for your ink. And then secondly, when you spill water on it, your paper will not disintegrate. So for an artist, we will choose acid-free paper. The paper can tend to be a little bit more expensive than usual, but if you don't want to spend so much, you can even just use a normal piece of paper. It's okay. But if you want to make it lasting, or you want to make a card for your friends, then you can use this cotton paper. Another thing about your pens that I'm holding here is that if we look closely at the words here, I can't show you that clearly. Okay, so this kind of felt tip pens, we try to buy water resistant pens. Water resistance is in a way that when I start drawing, okay, so here's an example. I have my felt tip pen, and I have a ball pen. This is a ball, the normal like pilot pens, right? Or let me see if I have another type of pen that I can use. Okay, so I have the gel pen, right? So why we say water resistance is important for our artworks is that when we have drinks on our side, or when we have, especially those mothers with kids at home, you tend to spill water. So I'm gonna pour a bit of water here. You can see what happens to the line works with water. So when I start smudging, oops, too much water. Done. When you start smudging, you can see that the gel pen is coming off. There is water. There is actually smudging a little bit here or it comes off, then it will dirty the paper. So one good thing about this paper is that it absorbs the ink a little bit well. So you can't really see the smudges, but when you start messing around with the two inks, the water resistant one, there is not much difference. And then whereas the ballpoint pen, you can see that it smudges off. And then especially when you're using the normal A4 paper, you will see that the ink will just spread when water is spilled on it. So that is why we choose one, the watercolor paper, and two, why we use this kind of felt tip pens that are water resistant. Okay. Any questions so far? Do we have any questions so far? No. So everyone has their equipment with them. So, okay, everyone has their equipment. Okay. So here is the ball that I was talking about just now. So what I use on this one, on this wood ball, is also this normal felt tip pen. So this felt tip pen, we have different brands that you can look at. The ones, they are Faber-Castell, but the ones that I use, this one is Artline. This is one of the cheaper ones that you can find in the market out there. So Artline, or we have Unipin as well. Unipin. And also another one is called the Micron pen, this little brown pen. So all of them have this felt tip. So if you want to, you can just try out different pens, try out different brands, and then see which one you are more comfortable with. So today I have three kinds of brands that I will usually use. I tend to use Artline, especially when I'm doing I'm drawing on hard surfaces like ukulele or even on guitar, because one, the ink doesn't spread, and then two, the felt tip lasts very long. The Micron pen is actually very smooth, especially when you draw on paper, but then the problem is the tip is a little bit soft, so it's a little bit fragile and not very friendly to use. Okay, so what we can do first is everyone can get your piece of paper. Okay, I'm gonna teach you how we can start first. Okay. Okay, so first, what we can start off with, I'm going to teach you the basic patterns that you can draw for Zentangles. The simplest form that you can actually do is what I said. If those who said they can't draw, the first and most simple to draw, most simple pattern that you can draw is actually the circle. So when you start drawing, draw a simple square box. Okay, and then get your ballpoint pen, your pens. So we are going to go directly into with our pens. I'm going to use 0.8 because I'm very scared that you can't see on the screen. So the first pattern that we're going to draw is actually the circle. Right, a very simple circle. So the circle is actually a very interesting kind of simple shape that you can do. When we start drawing our frame, okay, or in any kind of form and shape that you want to draw your art in, you can start drawing circles to fill the entire thing. So the most simplest pattern that you can do for those who never drew before or said they cannot draw, the easiest thing that you can do is to do circles. And then from there, you can start drawing smaller circles inside to fill the entire space. So here is one very simple exercise for you to do. When we start drawing circles, hold on, let me zoom in as much as I can. A lot of us wonder, how do you draw a perfect circle, right? The problem with especially when we are anxious or when we are in a hurry to finish things, we tend to draw circles simply, right? You have those, you have the circles that are not close, or you tend to have this kind of tails. But then what we are trying to achieve for the circle pattern is that everything must be enclosed. It must be one stroke, slowly, don't rush, and then try to practice your breathing. When you start drawing now, we will try one first. Because I can't see all of you, maybe you can turn on your camera later. What you can do right now is you start to draw any shape that you want, any frame that you want. You can be a big circle. Oh, okay, sorry. You can draw a big circle, or you can draw an oval shape. So one of the things that is happening right now is I am not breathing, I am talking. So I'm kind of out of breath. So my circle, no matter how big I draw, it's not even connected, or there's a problem here. This is a no. This is not what we want. What we are going to try to achieve is that when we draw a circle, you start at one point and then you end at one point, right? This is what we are trying to achieve. So when you start hurrying, the lines does not even touch each other. It is all over the place. So first lesson for today, breathe. Every dot, every circle that you draw, don't forget to breathe. Take a deep breath, breathe in. Take a deep breath out. Every circle that you do, try to breathe. And especially for me now, quite nervous, especially doing a workshop online and so many of you watching. I tend to hold my breath while drawing this circle, or I tend to talk too much when I'm drawing the circles. So I'm going to try to relax. I'm just going to start drawing these simple patterns into my frame. Right? And as I slowly fill up the piece of paper, the entire shape of the drawing seems to be changing. Right? So everyone, I hope you are trying this at home and not just watching me draw. You are all trying it yourself. So you can go as small as you can or as small as you want. But the whole idea is when you start drawing it, when you start drawing the circle, you make sure you start from one point. Then you slowly breathe in, breathe out, and then you draw a circle. Okay? Can everyone try that? So try to use different kind of patterns. Try to draw as big a circle as you can. But remember, breathe. And then from one end to another. Don't rush. Just relax, and then we will start drawing. Okay? And then what is the next step after the circle? It's similar to the circle, the spiral. So the spiral is the same thing. It's you start from one dot, enter in the center, then you slowly draw a circle on a circle, on a circle, and then you close it up. Then you have a spiral. So these are very simple patterns. And actually all these patterns, you can find them in a lot of our own Sarawakian art that represents life, like it's a never-ending line. Our line, we start from one place and then we slowly become a circle. Okay, so you can even apply this into your pattern. So you can actually just draw spirals as well into your different pattern. So far, is there any questions? You can ask me here directly. So another thing that you can actually do is, because I'm using ink here because I'm afraid that you cannot see the line. But another thing that you can do, which is is interesting and fun, is that you can actually just draw using a pencil, like maybe a heart, or maybe like let's see, a diamond shape, right? And what you can do with all this is you can actually start to split it into different patterns. And then after that, you can mix in different compartments here with different patterns. And when we are all done, then you erase the pencil marks. Then you can see something very new is going to come up. Okay? So let's try this first. So you can try to draw any shape and pattern. So this is just like a warming up session for us now. So what you can do is, one of these compartments, you draw a circle. Another compartment, you draw a spiral. And then what you can do is you can mix and match all this kind of thing. So what you can actually do is for your spiral one, you have these big spirals, you draw small circles to fill up the entire space. You don't have to worry about being overlapped. All you can do is just finish drawing the whole thing. Right. Okay, I'll let you guys draw in 5 minutes, and then after that, can turn on your camera to show me what you have done. So if any of you want to chit chat here, you can chit chat with me. If you want to ask any questions right now, since I'm not talking, you can ask me as many questions as you like. How is everyone doing? Everyone doing okay?
I just asking some clarification because I had a verbal try and improve the English for you. Okay.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear the question. Can you repeat the question?
Hello to all the panelists. If you have any questions, you can ask You can ask Mr. Aaron now. Okay. If you are shy to talk, you can type your questions in the Q&A box.
Hello,
If
Mr. Aaron.
yes,
Do you ever done any inai on anyone?
Inai, you mean the tattoo?
Yes.
Uh,
Using Zendala patterns.
I designed some tattoos for my friends. The problem is the tattoo artists, they do not dare to draw it on my friends. For one, it is the patterns are too complex for them or too fine, or some of them I just have to simplify it. So I did try. Uh, that is another goal that I want to try to do. Maybe one day I can get my hands on a tattoo machine and see who is daring to let me tattoo on them. But yeah, I do have some friends who are tattoo artists. They also tell me that it is hard for them because they are afraid that they don't have a steady enough hand to draw delicate patterns like this.
Oh,
The human skin is different.
yes.
Yeah. So actually, a lot. What the circle is for this pattern is actually very simple because I can give it a lot of names. So just now, what we did here, the one where we combine all of this is actually called the tipple. If you go look for later when you have time when you explore a little bit more, this is called this patterns here are called the tipple. Tipple. But if you see when you start looking at it, when you start adding things into it, it becomes a different name. So let's say I start from a big circle, I start to add in simple line, vertical lines or horizontal lines onto it. So let's say I start doing something like this. So you see, I'm trying to breathe as much as I can and make sure that all the lines are actually touching to each other. So when I start drawing more and more of the similar pattern like this, I divide it into 4 and then I start drawing sort of like vertical lines and horizontal lines onto the pattern. Then it gives me a totally new pattern and then I can add it into my different drawings. So this pattern is actually called Pweeko. 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 And then if I decide to do another circle, so that's why we say we start with the basics. We don't want to go too fast, too quick, too fast into advanced patterns or hard patterns to draw, because for those who I'm not sure how everyone is, what level everyone is, so we can just try with some basic with the circle, then after that we move up towards a different one. So another way that you can fill in this kind of circle is by just drawing curved lines. Right? So Zentangles have very unique names for their patterns, and these patterns are actually created by the different Zentangle artists. I tend not to create patterns. I tend to just use them because I don't believe in giving them names. I just love patterns, so I just use whatever I can find. So once I started adding curves into the circles, it becomes bossy. This is called Pweeko. And then this simple just circles is called the tipple. The spirals that we did just now on top here are actually called print tabs. PRINTEMPS. And then after that, what other things that we can do with the circle is that, okay, let's say for example, okay, so in order for us to fix, let's say we make mistakes, we do something like this, we make mistakes. I will teach you my method of fixing some of these kind of patterns up to create another pattern. So I'll just try to draw it as much as I can. And then, so now it looks like a full circle. And then from there, I will just add in another spiral. And then after that, I'll just repeat the pattern across. Right? So let's say this one as well. I will just try to make it a full circle. I will come in. So I can make my mistakes into not mistakes. So once I start putting all of them together, when I start filling them up with fillers, like you can use tipple as a filler, you can use bossy or even the prenaps as a filler. So when I start doing that around it, it hides all my mistakes. The whole idea is that you don't be afraid of the mistakes that you might be doing, but you try to finesse it. You try to make it look even better than what it is originally supposed to be. So this one here, these two patterns here, is actually known as the cruffle, CRUFFLE. And then from the cruffle, we can also create the coronavirus actually also has a pattern one. So when you start looking at it, you can, or viruses usually have a pattern, then you can start, okay, I'm sort of inspired by the virus today, so I'm going to create a virus kind of thing. So what I can do is from a circle, I will draw in another circle. And then what I can do is so a lot of the mistakes I found, oh, okay, I have this mistake right here. So what I can do, I just draw lines around it. I can just draw patterns in it. Right? And then after that, that becomes another new pattern. Then what I can do is I can draw, I can just put dots inside there. Then it's like a lotus already. Another way that I can do it is from the same thing, similar thing, I can draw another circle inside this one here. And then what I will do is I'll invert the lines just now that I draw on the out, instead of on the outside, I draw it on the inside. then I'll draw the same dots, then that becomes another pattern. This one is called the coral, I don't know how to spell it. So you see, from one small circle, we can actually use a lot of patterns from just one circle. And then imagine if you start filling them up inside patterns in the different forms that you place in your pencil, in your pencil line art, then you use the ink inside there, then it becomes like, it creates more and more types of patterns, and then after that you can use them in your in your artworks, right? So this is the simplest way that you can create patterns, simple patterns for your entire piece. From here we can move into something even more difficult. So let me take, for example, so we take the coil, okay? So I'm going to draw one big pattern here. And then from one circle, I will just keep drawing different, I just make it into like this kind of bullseye kind of thing. Right? And what I can do next is I will start to divide it further. So you don't need a ruler to do this. All you can do is just, because it's a pattern, it doesn't need to be perfect. All you need to worry about is that you follow the step by step without an eraser, and then just try to do interesting patterns with this. So what I'm planning to do with this one, this is a more advanced pattern. So what I can do is I'll take one end, I'll draw a curve from one end to the opposite end here, like so. And then I will just fill in the top part of it all. Can you see a pattern emerging? So a lot of this is just simple drawing. So this Zentangle is actually the simplest form of complex geometric art that we can all do at home. You don't need a lot of tools. You only need a pencil, a pen, and then a paper. That's all. You don't even need an eraser, like I said. So we can start just drawing. Okay, so you can actually spend hours and hours to do this. You can spend a very simple time. You can spend just drawing your patterns. Breathe. Remember to breathe. Remember to just draw. Don't worry. This whole exercise is just to this form of artwork is to bring zen. So it's like to bring this kind of serenity and to bring relaxation. So another way that you can add complexity to your form is when you start filling your form with the same patterns that you can find in the smaller ones like this, but in a way that I make it a little bit more complex by drawing one line and another line, and I just keep repeating myself. So can you see? Has everyone tried? Or am I going too fast? You need to let me know if I'm going too fast. So from just like 15 minutes here, we have so many different kind of patterns that we can actually try out. So you have the prenaps, the preco, the bonsi, the choreo, the cruffle, the tipo, and then from this few ways of drawing, we come up with another tool. Actually, this is called the Marry You, Mary, Marry Hill, and then this one is called the Dagger Lee. So from a single circle pattern, we start creating like different kinds of smaller patterns that we can apply into both our Zendala later and also our Zentangle pieces. Okay. Everyone okay so far? Okay, from this is circle. So we are done with circle. Are we done? Are we okay to move forward? Okay, so the next one that we are going to do is another very simple geometric form, which is the square. So what you can do now is on your paper, no need to be perfect, no need to get ruler, just draw like 4 to 6 squares. You can draw it as big as you want or as small as you want, but then for this workshop, I'm drawing huge, so you can see what I am actually drawing. So I'm going to draw 6 circles, and I'm going to tell you what you can do with square patterns. So for the first square, I'm going to do a pattern called Fior. Okay, it's a very simple pattern. So what I will do is I'm going to split this into 4. So you can see what we can do later with this. So I'm going to zoom in. Wait, oops. So for the fill, what you can do first is to start drawing a square anywhere that you can think of. If you can get it as center as possible to the square, is even better. Okay, so the next line that you will draw to create this pattern is to draw a curved line here, like that, like so. So sometimes what we can do is we can always darken or use a thicker pen to draw a double line to make this one thicker. And after that, we just draw the halos for it. So what we can do is you choose either the left or the right side. So we're going to go clockwise. So I can just draw one single line here. One single line here on the right side. And then we have one pattern. So what you can do is you can create more. So the same thing here. So I'm going to just draw 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines. darken up the main line that you have drawn. So you can even color in this small the square that you have drawn. Thicken these lines. And then we follow the pattern right next to this. We go in with the line on the right side. And then if you draw this the entire row, it becomes an entire pattern of squares. So I'm going to do something smaller here just to show you. Or let me do one more. I'll do one more here. So let's see. So it becomes sort of like this kind of tiles, you know, your bathroom tiles, your floor tiles kind of pattern. So you don't have to be perfect. All you have to do is to continue drawing your pattern. Take your time, don't rush. I'm rushing, so my lines are not perfect. But take it easy, to breathe in, breathe out, to draw it out. So you will have something like this kind of floor patterns here. So imagine when you have like, if you do an artwork that is just one line, or you use a pencil to draw one line, and then you divide all of this into different squares, and then you start doing these patterns inside your boxes. So your lines doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be straight. It doesn't have to be all the curves the same way. All you have to do is follow the simple patterns of one going up, one going down. You can curve it differently. You can make it more exaggerated, and you can make it more like different than each line. It doesn't have to be all the same. Then if you repeat this pattern all across, then you get like this kind of entire, you add in the detail, you have this entire row of designs. So let's say I go into something even smaller. I use a pencil for this. Right, so I'll start using a pencil. Go into each square. Okay. I will take my time to draw this one because this is a bit smaller. Then you can start having all these kind of different patterns inside your drawing already. So the whole idea is that you can either draw the lines per square, then it will look like a floor tile, or you can actually erase the pencil marks, and then it becomes like it is actually just one pattern. So there are many ways that we can actually use this, and then many ways that we can actually play with the patterns as well. There is no fixed one way. Another way to use the circle, the square. Is we are gonna draw the next one called Capegel, Capeangle. So what you can do is the first line that you draw is this line, these two lines. Then from there, you have, so you continue on the next, I'm showing the step by step. So you have this one here, and then this one you go all the way to the back. And this one come down here. And then you draw a diagonal line across on the top here. And then you start drawing in all these little square boxes, an L shape like that. Then you can have these like leafy patterns inside your drawing. So this is the Capengel. So what you can do is, so let's say I'll use the black pen to draw it, so it's much clearer. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you just draw a diagonal line, and then you just repeat the pattern. Okay, you try to draw the draw this one stroke at a time, and then after that, what you can do to modify this pattern is to fill in like maybe alternate gaps. And then another way you can do it is you mirror it. And then you get another, like a continuous kind of version of it. So we have a lot of ways to do this. So I'm going to go quickly to the next one. Next one is called dark wood. So actually you can find all these on the website called, hold on, let me copy the website for you. So you can actually go onto this website. I hope we can go into the chat. It's called tanglepatterns.com/zentangles. When you go into this, it has a step-by-step. It has a step-by-step. It has a step-by-step. How do you do certain patterns? The different name of the patterns here. So you can click on either one. So let's say we go into snag. We can go into S, and then we have online instructions of drawing this Zentangle pattern as vine. So when you click into the panel, they have the step-by-step instructions on how to draw the pattern. So I won't be teaching every single pattern that I know. I'm only giving you some of the basic patterns, but you can actually go to this website called tanglepatterns.com, and then you can find all these Zentangle patterns to learn from. So there are easy patterns here. There are very hard patterns here, so you can find it. Another thing that you can do to challenge yourself will be using like random selector. So from here, you can write how many patterns do you want, and how many maximum and minimum patterns that you want from here, and then it will give you like what kind of patterns you should be drawing lah. Okay, so you can just play around with this, and then it's quite an interesting site that you can use to learn more about Zentangle and learn about the different patterns. So continue here. So the dark wood. So when we continue dark wood is kind of similar. So what we do is we separate the drawing in two, and then after that the box into two. Then you separate it diagonally in two as well. And then what you can do is you draw a curve here. On all four corners, you draw this little like quarter of a circle, right? And then after that, on the lines here, you just draw a curvy line from one end to one point to one point. So 1 point to 1 point. Is everyone doing okay? I hope I'm not too fast. Or if I'm too slow, you can also let me know. So that is dark wood. Okay. And then a simple one that you can do as well is called the log cabin. So the log cabin is actually you just continuously draw from one end to another end to another end. So it's like let me use my thicker pen. So log cabin is actually you start off with one line here from the top to the bottom. Then from there you just draw from here to here, and then after that you draw from here to here. Then you close the entire thing, and then after that all you have to do is repeat. So one line here, one line here, one line here, one line here. So you continuously draw. Okay, so you have a log cabin. It's simple. And then another one is to draw a spiral in a square. So this is called the emblem. So these are all the patterns that I mentioned that you can actually find on the on that channel later. So emblem is just drawing a spiral inside the square box. So what you can do is one stroke at a time, one line at a time, ensure that all of the drawings is locked. Try to stop, draw one line, stop, take off your hand. Then from the line, stop. And then from the line, stop. Take off your pen. Don't keep dragging it like that, because at the end of the day, you want your drawing to still be neat, and then it doesn't want to feel like, oh, you are going to be very tired to continuously draw this. So learn that sometimes in life you need to stop and then take a look at it, take a breather, and then after that continue again. So I'm stopping slowly by lifting my pen up. I'm not continuously drawing everything. Then we have the emblem. And then similar to fear, what I can do with the pattern is called the vortex. So it's just a square in the square, like just now. And all I have to do is continuously draw lines. This is actually very simple. So you slowly draw a fan where your patterns start to just open up. So it doesn't have to be straight. It can be a bit curvy. So you can draw all four sides if you want to. And then you slowly fill out the entire box with curved lines. Then you have vortex. Okay, so for the square, we already have 6 kind of patterns, and what you can do with all these kind of patterns is it's not just a straight line that you can draw. When we start doing Zendalas, where you're sort of like you have a circle, and then you want to do these bands of these patterns on the bands here. So I'm not drawing it very neatly now. So what happens is that when you start creating this kind of square boxes inside your circle, you can just draw all the patterns in the box here. Of course, for such a small circle, I cannot draw all these kind of patterns. So when you start drawing sort of like bigger pieces of mandala, especially like in A4 piece of paper, you can actually incorporate even this this kind of square patterns into your mandala frames here, so that you can start creating like a whole series of patterns to draw. So I will let you try a little while to draw all these 6 patterns. See if you are okay with it. If you're not okay, you can let me know. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. Don't be shy. So the next, let us take 5 minutes to learn, to try out on your own pieces of paper. Try out how to draw these 6 patterns: the fjord, the kappa angle, the dartwood, the log cabin, the emblem, and the vortex. Can we take 5 minutes? You can ask me questions if you like. you have some problems with dark wood? Okay, someone tell me they have problems with dark wood. Okay, I think dark wood, because I drew in such a small circle, you can't really see. So I'm just gonna, I draw in such a small square, you might not be able to see clearly. Let me zoom in. Okay, so dark wood. Okay, so for dark wood, it's actually very simple. What you can do is, first you divide the square into 4. Then after that, you divide it another by diagonal. Okay, then from there, on each corner, on each of the 4 corners, you add in a small curve, a quarter of a circle, right? And then from there, so from the pattern, what you do is you start doing so one line like that. You start from this end to this end, from one end here to another end here. You draw a curve, a flower, right? And then on the other side, you do the same thing. So as I draw it here, if I draw it here, does it help you? Yeah, so that's the thing about Zentangle. It feels very complicated, but it's actually very simple. It's just that as you draw more and more, as you combine all the patterns together, the artwork feels a bit more complicated, a bit more complex. But when you start breaking down the patterns, it's actually a very simple pattern. It's just sometimes when we draw it small, it feels like there's a lot of lines, there's a lot of things. But then, and in actual fact, it's actually a very simple. When you start blowing it up, it looks like, oh, okay, it's actually that simple. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. So we can try. Everyone can try this 6 patterns first. Okay, is everyone okay? Okay, finally, okay, final one before we go into Zendala and no, final pattern to learn before we go into the Sarawak patterns. I'm going to teach you how to draw one or two Sarawak patterns, so at least we can incorporate some Borneo kind of element into the art. Is that is what pattern I'm going to teach you right now is actually very similar to our Borneo patterns, and it is also based on the idea of the leaf or petals. So one of the most common patterns that you can find in the Zendala or mandala will be this kind of petals. So these petals are actually very easy to draw. And then it also depends on how we later I'll show you in the Zendala how do we apply this pattern. But I find it very interesting to draw for here because the whole idea, this is called petals, Petals. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so petals is like, you know, the flower, when we draw a flower we always have this kind of petals. So when we start doing something like that and then we add onto it, we are actually beginning to draw, we are starting to draw the mandala. Then we can start adding certain elements. So I am drawing it very fast, so excuse me if it's not like the perfect mandala kind of thing. But then it starts off like when we start to draw flowers, we have all these kind of petals, and then we start having this mandala. So mandalas actually is sort of like based on the patterns of a flower that you see. So one of the best ways to draw a petal is like when we start dividing our mandalas into like many portions later that you can see, we have all this kind of like sequence that we can find. So later I'll teach you how to split your circle. So from there, what we can add in, okay, let me do a very big one, is from each side we choose 2 points, similar points, and then we curve it in up, then we curve it down, something like that. And then from here we can actually, this is already called one petal, so this entire thing is a petal. Okay, so what will happen when we start doing one petal like this, we continuously draw on a similar line up, down, then we have a complete sort of like a mandala kind of thing. So when we have each petals like this, we can start adding on different elements, different patterns into this kind of petals as well. So what I can do is I can draw the aura first. I'll do a second line in the internal side. Then from there, I will draw a semicircle like just now what we did with the dogwood. And then from here, I will draw in the tear petals like this. For demonstration wise, I'm using everything in pen, but usually these lines I usually will use pencil, so I can always erase it. So after I'm done with this, I can always fill in the places where where it is just the background. And then if I repeat this entirety, this will become a new kind of a pattern here. Another way will be if I start splitting up the pattern in a way, and then I'll start splitting it even further, fill it in, and then so I'm drawing all these Zentangle patterns, into sort of a petal. So I'm creating like different patterns inside the different petals. Oops, I think I made a mistake somewhere here. Okay, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. Okay, so I have like different patterns. And then if I want to make it a little bit different than the petal here, what I can do is from this end, exaggerate it a bit. So like just now, the ink hasn't dry and I smudge it. So I'm not sure whether you can see on the screen. Maybe I make some mistakes here. So what I can do is, oh, I made a mistake. Hide it now. Don't worry too much about it. There are many ways that we can fix problems. See, and then it changed into a whole new pattern. So this is petals. So you can actually play with a lot of different ways of. You can actually use the methods that we learned from just the square and the squares and the circles to come up with like all these kind of repetiting patterns in our drawings. So it can be as simple as just drawing lines, drawing a leaf, or you can draw like simple geometric shapes like the teardrop. So from the circle, you can always add in zigzag lines like what we showed in the drawing, or you can always use the circle, the basic forms like the circle, triangle, and square, or you can go for outside the box kind of patterns like the teardrop. And you can even add shapes like the heart, and even it can even become a very simple pattern. So for the teardrop shape, which I love to use inside my drawings, is because when I combine teardrops, 1, 2. So I'm doing this quickly so we can move on to the next step. We can actually add in a lot of patterns into something similar like this by just drawing one line, 2 dots, or one line, and then we draw it like a typical leaf where we split it all up. Or you can actually draw circles inside your teardrops. Or you can actually do it in a different pattern. Right. So there are actually a lot of ways that you can actually create your leaf patterns as well. So this is called the petal. So petals are something that we will find mostly inside the Zendalas. We use a lot of this in the mandalas. So later we will explore further on this later inside the as we begin our Zendala drawing. Okay. Okay, so other patterns that we can actually do is what you find a lot in Sarawak tattoos, especially is the ones where they have a tattoo on the wrist or on the arm here where it goes one round. So we call it a band. So what we can do with that as well, if you want to draw on randomly, is sort of like, let's say I have a box. I'm just going to use boxes today, so it's easier to explain and illustrate out. So I have a box. I want to divide this box into a band, something like that. Right? What patterns I can add onto this simply is to, this one I'm drawing now is called the hybrid. So it's actually a very simple pattern, and then it reminds me a lot of the Iban tattoos that I see here. So what they do is you give an aura or an outside line into the original line that you draw. Right? It doesn't have to be perfect. And then the next part is to just draw triangles, to draw a zigzag inside these lines here. Right? And then after that, what do? You add on different layers onto it. So it's like one side here, one side here, one side here. You do the alternate, like weaving kind of patterns. Okay, and then you can either fill it all up, or so some other so for some they will just add on like different patterns into this band. Then it looks like that the weaving baskets that we have in the market, that you can find inside the marketplace. Right. So you can always color in the parts that you can always darken it to highlight the patterns as well. Oh, I forgot to mention, if for those who are more comfortable asking me questions in Mandarin or even in BM, you can always ask me. You can try to write it here. You can write the message in Mandarin or in BM. You can ask me any questions in BM or Mandarin, and I will try to answer. I will try to answer the best I can. I can speak Mandarin. I can listen, but I can't really write. So if you need to, you can ask me even in Mandarin if you have any questions. 但是你有什么问题，你可以问我，不用担心。我不会很会读啦，可是我会慢慢的读一下， then try to 回答你的问题。所以你有什么问题的话，你可以用华语。Kalau ada masalah, kamu boleh guna BM untuk tanya saya akan cubalah untuk beritahu kamu to answer to. Okay. So this is basically what we basically have for patterns for today. I don't want to give you too much. If I give you too much, later you might find problems with learning, like absorbing too much of the things here today. So if you look at the slide now, so this is the band that the hybrid that we had. You will have something like the hybrid. So we actually you can come up with many kinds of variations when it comes to creating patterns like this. The way you arrange it, the way you place the pattern, the way you put the lines will bring you like this kind of different patterns and different outlooks. Okay. So it's the same with a lot of the patterns you can find on the zentanglepatterns.com. You see a lot of how they will give you this step-by-step ways to create a pattern. Okay, so it's a lot of the patterns are the whole idea of this is always repetitive. it is these are all patterns. Patterns means it just keep repeating, repeat. So you don't have to be scared of, oh, how am I going to do? Oh, how am I going to do this? Just think of, okay, if I'm going to do it once, I just continue and repeat for that one part, one portion. Then I'll try a different pattern in the next portion. Then I'll try a different pattern in the next portion. Then you will start creating this kind of different kind of feeling when you come to your drawing. So there are no two similar paintings of mine or artworks of mine. All my artworks are different because that whole kind of like, oh, I'm not going to think too far. I'm not going to plan this thing. I'm just going to let me experiment with all the different kind of patterns that I know of, and then I start arranging it in a different manner. So this is the whole idea of this kind of Zen kind of art. You don't think too much. It's not like realism. Oh, did I draw it correctly or not? Is this proportion correct or not? Is this person's head correct or not? Is the eyes apart enough or not, etc. No, for mandala and zendala, for especially zendalas and zentangle, it's most on the feeling when you are actually drawing. Okay, so like simple patterns like this B line as well, where you draw simple lines and then you add on the zigzag, and then you start coloring it in a different side, and then you shade it in a different side. It gives you a totally different feel to the patterns too as well. So similarly, all of these patterns I'm just showing you. I'm not gonna draw it for you here. A lot of these patterns you can actually find it from tanglepatterns.com, and then you can try to put it into your own artworks after today's workshop. Okay, don't have to be worried. You can just try all these. You can find all of these from tanglepatterns.com or zentangle.com, and then you can actually try all the different patterns and different ways of drawing the patterns there. Okay. So anyone have any questions so far? Or do you want me to give you some time to try all of the? Do you want me to give you some time to try all the patterns first? Okay, I think I saw a question. I saw this question on Facebook comment. Thank you for the question. The question asks, what's the difference between mandala and zendala? Okay, so what's the difference between mandala and zendala? One, there's no difference. Actually, it's the same. It's just the method of creating the mandala. When we talk about the true mandalas, it is usually made out of sand. The sand during the Tibetan art is Tibetan. They usually call it mandalas. Or during the Bavali, where they pour these patterns on the ground, is mostly out of sand. Mandalas are very specific geometric art. It doesn't apply a lot of patterns. It just applies simple geometric inside the mandalas. I'm not sure if you get it. Zendala is just the incorporation of the Zen thinking, the Zendala thinking, into a mandala, where you apply different kind of patterns and different kind of a specific kind of patterns that you can find in your. You can find specific. You use the specific patterns that you learn from Zentangles. The patterns here that we learned today into the geometric of the mandala, the circle. Okay, a Zendala is actually a circle Zentangle. It's just names. That's why I say I'm not really interested in giving it names or giving it things. For some people, This is also called a Zendala. So it's a circle art using patterns. It's a circle art using patterns on a round object or spherical object. Okay, so I have this as a mandala, a Zendala. And then I can even do something as simple as this with doodles on it. So why do we add Zen in front of everything? You will hear it's not just Zendala. From doodles, we have Zen doodles. From Zen mandala, we have Zendala. And then we also have Zen painting. We have Zen string art and all these kind of things. The reason why we say we add a Zen in front of it is more of this kind of piece that we are not doing it to. It's more of a method of creating the artwork, not really the artwork's name is called Zen. It's more of the method that we apply when we are doing all this artwork. It's supposed to help you relax. It's supposed to be sort of like a meditative tool. It's supposed to be like I just found out that meditation is actually not for everyone and it's not really effective for everyone. Sometimes meditation will get some people angry. So it's the same thing as doing mandala or zendalas like this. Not everybody have the patience to sit and draw for hours and hours. Not everybody have the patience to draw one line by one line. And I learned that through teaching Zendalas to people. Not everyone will get it. Not everyone will feel relaxed doing it. Some people feel more relaxed coloring Zendala. Some people feel more relaxed coloring in, right? But for me, I feel very frustrated coloring into patterns. I rather draw the pattern. So there are different types of people, different kind of things. But then the whole function of the Zen thing is so we find peace. We find peace in what we do. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so these are all Zentangle patterns. So I think that's enough Zentangle patterns for today to talk about. What I'm going to go into next, this is more of a, so like I said, I love to study patterns. I don't care if it's called Zentangles. I don't care if it's called Sarawak art. I don't care if it's Zen or whatever. The most important thing is I love to learn about patterns, and I love to see how patterns evolve and how patterns can be used. So what we are going to go into next is from this book. It's a photocopy. It is actually by Augustine Angat. It was published very long time ago. It was published in 1988, almost 32 years ago. It's originally in Iban, but it was translated into English. There's a lot of study into this, like how do you draw the patterns and how do we, how actually the Iban culture, how did they, the different leaves that they use, they chose, they get inspired from nature, the different parts and the different elements of a Iban tattoo or Iban pattern. And then there are certain rules that you can or cannot do. You can find it all in this book. I'm sure that Pustaka has the original one. The reason why I only have the photocopy one is I tried to find the original one, but I couldn't find. I don't think it's for sale anymore. So try to go into Pustaka Negeri, and then I think they have the original copy there, and then you can actually go flip through the book and to really know. So a lot of the things that I learned is from here, and I realized that when I look into how they create the patterns, it's so similar. It's so similar when we come up with Zentangle, how we have one single line, and then after that we apply another line. Then we start filling. It in black, and then this is one pattern. Then how I can take the similar thing, add a different kind of leaf pattern to it, and I get a whole new, totally different set of patterns and art that I can use in the drawing. So I find when I start researching about all these kind of patterns and art, especially from native art and also from Zentangles, it's nothing new. Even though Zentangle can copyright all these patterns, but when we go back into to study tribal arts and tribal tattoos, you can actually find that it's so similar in what we are doing today, the Zendala. So I said I can't give it a name. All I can do is say, oh, I get inspired from here. I get inspired from this. To call me a Zendala artist, I'm not really a true Zendala artist because of I don't like to listen to rules. I like to just create art freely. And that is the true Zen. That I'm happy with what I draw and I'm actually relaxed with what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to show you a very basic pattern from the book here. How, and then maybe we can apply these basic ones inside our Zendala later. So first pattern that we are gonna draw. Hold on. So one of the thing about Iban art or native art is using a lot of flora elements, a lot of floral elements, especially when it comes to the leaf or it comes to the flower petals or the ferns or the vines that we can see. So some of the most simple patterns that you can apply into your Zendala or later the Borneo mandala is actually the simple leaf pattern. So you can actually just draw our normal leaf, how you draw a leaf when you are a child. Then we start adding elements like, let's say you have vines, the fern curve. So what you can do is you just draw a leaf, then you give it a slight curve like that. And then after that, you just draw it like that. So you have one type of leaf. Then similarly, what you can do for the same kind of leaf, you can curve it in. And then you close it up. Instead of leaving the tip like that, then you can do similar, same thing. And then you can add on the leaf. Now start like that. So it looks like a vine crawling in. Or you can do a spiral leaf. You just draw our simple spiral like that, like what we did just now. Then you add on. So there are so many types of leaf. So like even like a simple leaf like that. Or if you look at Paku, right? We have Milin. And then on top of that, you can add on the different types of leaf here. Right. These are some of the native patterns that we can add. So this one, the bear claw curve, another one that we can actually apply. This is a little bit harder. So you draw the leaf down like that, and then you add in the sawtooth. Or you can do a very simple beak curve. In Iban, it's called gelong betangkong. So it looks like our hornbill. It's a hornbill leaf. So similarly, up, down. So that's the horn. Now after that, you draw the beak. Another leaf that we can draw, or the tip of the leaf that you can draw, is actually simple. Two leaf like that. Add two sharp edges. And then it curves down. Okay. So we have a lot of types of leaves here. You can actually look at, you can actually try to incorporate it in a lot of the in the patterns that we have. And then another part of Iban artworks that how to create a pattern. So leaves is just normal how we draw leaves, and then it's just the different patterns of the leaf that you can find. But for Iban patterns, it comes with a few curves, the simple rules, the J curve, the C curve, the V curve, and then the W curve, and then after that you have the S curve. Okay, so from J curve, C curve, V curve, W curve, S curve. So from these curves, we start applying, we can start doing very simple patterns with this. So from here, let's take, for example, the J curve. So first, you imagine that you have a band, or you have a circle like this, a line, a circle with your mandalas inside here. So in between these lines, what you can start doing is you can start doing the J curve. So one here, and then after that you have another J. Big one here. Like that. Like that. So it's using all these J curves. So it's just J inverted, 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 inverted like that. Then we start applying the leaves. How we start? We draw the leaves by. Done one. So we start drawing in the leaves. So we start drawing in the vines. So it's a repetitiveness also. So you follow in here. So some of these patterns are a little bit more complicated. Even till today, I can't really completely understand how to fully draw it. So I'm still using pencils to do this. So this is something that we can actually learn, because a lot of the times I will just continuously draw this. I will just learn how to use it because it's not as it's quite complicated for me even till today, because then that kind of appreciation for the different local arts, how actually it looks simple, it is simple actually, but how we can start applying it, that is the next question. So I usually will draw this in the grid first, and then after that it will slowly come out to be easier. So sometimes I will still mess up. So I start drawing these kind of leafy patterns on all of it. And then to end all these kind of things, and then so it's following. So you start building up the leaves as a pattern here. So we started off as a J with the J curve, and then we start adding all these patterns onto it as well. Then you can flip it to the other side, and then you can repeat. Then you can see that you can have this, you start connecting it, refining it. Then you just shape the entire parts that you need in the So when we finish drawing, you can erase it. And then when you start coloring it in the place that needs to be colored in, then you start to get our basic Sarawak pattern design. Okay, so there's a lot of ways to do this. I think I only have half an hour left, so I cannot go into a lot. This entire patterns one is supposed to be one other class, totally different class. So this is something that I can, if you need to, you can private message me and I can send you some of these pages and then you can actually just try out for yourself. You can actually use like different curves to create all these kind of patterns. Then after that, you apply the different kind of leaves. So just now what I added was I added two types of leaves, one here and then another one here into this pattern here. See the leaves here to create these Sarawak patterns. So there are a lot of ways that we can use incorporate Sarawak pattern art as well. There's a lot of patterns. If you can find the book, if you can't find the book, then I will send you some of the pages, and then you can try it out for yourself. You can always message me on my Instagram or my Facebook, and I will answer you from there. But yeah, it's just something similar. It's just something simple for you to see that we can actually do this in your drawing. But most of the times I will just use something as simple as this inside the Zendala. I will not use something so complex like this. I will just use something simple like leaf patterns like this, because it feels so similar to all the patterns that we have here and then into the drawing. Okay, so I'm gonna prepare to tell you how to do a Zendala. So hold on. Oh, okay, we have a question here. I wonder how you create human portrait. Just now I saw. Okay. How do I create the portrait of Mahathir one? I suppose you are talking about the Mahathir one. So what I did for that piece was I cheated. Like I said, I'm not good at doing human portrait. What I did was I used my window as a light box. I put the image of Mahathir on the window, and then I put an image of Mahathir on the window, and then I put my paper, sort of like, let's say, I'm not sure you can see or not. So I put the image here, and then I put a piece of paper, and then what I can see from here. Then after that, I draw a rough pattern. So how I draw the rough pattern is, one, I look at the shadows. Where are the more prominent one is one color. I will just shade it in first. Then after that, the lighter colors and the lighter colors. So once I finish with the rough pattern, I just see the outline, the highlights and the lowlights of the portrait. Then after that, I'll add in the patterns to differentiate the different tones. Okay, then after that it comes out to that Mahathir kind of drawing. So I'm guessing what was said, what you are, the image that you are actually trying to ask me is this one, right? Yeah. So basically what happens is that if I look on the picture, on his picture, I see shadows, and then I see sort of his outline, and then so the different patterns, the different intensity of the patterns I use to create the different shadows and then the different light. So the white ones will be the brighter spot where there is no shadows or no tones, highlight tones. So it's sort of left white, and then the rest is all where the intensity of the shadows are. So I also use that for a portrait for my grandma as well. It's the same thing. When you take a photo, you will usually see where are the different shades of shadows, and then from there you use the different patterns. There's another more simpler way to do this, which is to, if you know how to use Photoshop, you desaturate the image, you make it into a black and white image, and then from there you will be able to see much more clearly the different tones. And if you are even better than that, which I haven't tried but I heard that you can do it, is through Illustrator, where you scan your image inside and then you make it into 3 colors, so 3 monotone colors. So it will come out black, gray, and light gray and white. Then you use those you print those out, and then, like I said, you use the light box to create. So there are many ways to do it. This is actually a cheating method. I am not good at doing portraits, so I just try to do it in my own way, using technology to do it. Okay. Okay. So for the Zendala, okay, for the Zendala, what I need you to get out now, each and every one of you, is to get your compass, either this kind or this kind. I'm not sure which one you have at home, or the normal kind, the normal compass that you use for high school. You can use those as well. I need you to get your ruler, and I need you to get a pencil and a pen. Okay, so what we're going to do first is put your pencil into your compass. So I'm not doing the precise method this morning. What I'm doing now is just a mandala for fun. Okay, so sometimes we are lazy, we don't want to think about it too much. We just decide, okay, I have a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be, if you are a perfectionist, what you can do is you can measure your paper. Find where is the center point. If you want your mandala to be in the center, then you mark the point, and then you start drawing the circle in the middle. So I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to eyeball it. So with a pencil, draw your circle. I'm not sure. Is it clear? Can you see it? If you can't see it, then I'll change it to my pen. I'm not sure how clear is it on Zoom. Okay, so I got a circle. One of the easiest way to create patterns for mandala, the simplest way to do a mandala, is from your circle itself, you start to draw your patterns first. Okay, so you can do this with a pencil first. I'm using pen so that you at home can look at this much more clearly on your screen. So the simplest way to do a mandala or circle, Zendala or circle art is to just draw a lot of circles first. If you want to be if you are designer and you know what is the golden ratio, go for it. Go for the golden ratio. So in nature, there is this thing, for those who do not know, in nature, we have something what we call the golden proportions. So it's a proportion that we find in nature that, how do I explain it? It's sort of like this kind of like natural perfect proportions. How do we calculate this golden ratio? Is sort of like, it's a mathematical thing. So if you Google it later, golden ratio, you will find out how you can actually use it. The easiest way I can explain it is how the sequence is going to be. So for those who are just wondering, this is just a basic. I might not be right. I hope I'm right. So what it does is when you draw a square, it's 1, 1, and then when you have 2 squares, it becomes 1, 2. That means you come up with 2. Then 2 plus 1 equals 3. So the sequence becomes like 1, 1, 2, 3. Then 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 3, 8. 8 plus 5, etc., etc., etc. Then you use these numbers. So it's like 1 centimeter or 1 millimeter, depending on you. Then 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter, 5 centimeter, 8 centimeter. So when you start applying this golden ratio, especially for when it comes to a Zendala, then you have like something like the perfect proportion. You can use that inside here to create this kind of perfect proportions. So it's sort of like more pleasing to the eye when you look at your drawing. So these are the things. It's not that important to me. For me is the more the process for the Zendala is that I don't have to think too much. I just want to draw and I want to add patterns in. I want to do easy drawings. I want to be able to just have fun while I'm drawing. So this is this is to me the basic of the basic mandalas, Zendalas that you can actually do. So first off, you have all your frames. You have a circle and you have all your frames. What we can do is now, the simplest way to do your first mandala, which you can do today, is that whatever you learn for the patterns just now, especially like the circles, right? All this, you fill it in the alternative drawing. So let's say just now, so for this entire thing here, you do the daggerly. And then here you put in the print pens. And then after that you do the tipple. Then you do the cruffle. And then after that you do the quico. So in the entire circle, you try to fill all of these parts with the different patterns that you have learned today. Right? And then if on top of that, when you feel that, oh, it still looks empty, then you can start adding in the patterns the square patterns that you learn, or you can add on, you can learn the different patterns from the different patterns that you learn from tanglepatterns.com. You can start creating like this kind of filler, or even like if you are interested in weaving, then you understand how weaving patterns look like, then you can start adding in. Right, so I have I will try to draw a few more. So we are just repeating the different patterns that we had learned just now, and then by putting it inside a circle. Okay, so you have your preco, your prenaps. So I can draw like the spirals here. So the entire thing is just filled with one pattern, one pattern. So you sort of start to see your different patterns going in, and then you will have your first Zendala. Simple, right? Very simple, right? Okay, the next, so after doing this simple exercise, the next one that you can actually do is you can start dividing your circles into different sections, and that is when you need to start remembering your, I think it's your form 3 mathematics. I think I've been telling all my I think if I remember correctly is the form 3 mathematics. So what you can do is for simple mathematics, if I have my how to separate my circle is to get the center, any line to the center, and then I start drawing this, right, to split up. Then from here I can just draw another line, and here I draw another line. So just now from one, I'm sorry if we are running a bit late. Karen, I hope it's okay. So imagine you start drawing all this, then you start applying mathematics into it. So how do you start drawing this line to this line? You get it? Then you will start splitting up the circle here. So let me try again. I'll draw a smaller circle because my paper is too small this morning. So it's sort of like when you start separating your circles, So usually I'll use this in pencil. I will not use a pen. But then from here, you can see that we have already divided the circle into 4 parts. And then from there, it will be sort of like if you want to divide it further, so you take the points from here, from one side, then the other side. Then from the ends, you move it to the center. So that is how you start splitting up the circle. And then from here, what you can do is you can start splitting it into further. So if you can, so you get this point to this point, and then you get here, you get this point to this point, you get here. Then that is how you start splitting your circle for more and more. And then this is how you can add in more and more different kind of patterns inside. So from here, what you can do is simplest one, fill each and every one of these with a different pattern, or what you can do is apply the petals images. So from here, what you can add in extra is once you already divide your circle, you can draw further circles in between. And then you will see that you have all these grids here, right? This small space here, that you can actually add patterns within it. Or from here, what you can do is you can start drawing your patterns and your petals inside. Okay, so that is how the simplistic way of it is to slowly add on more patterns and more patterns. The more circles that you draw on the outer lane, and then the more you split your circle into different segments, the more complex your Zendala will be. And then when you start repetitively adding in the same patterns over and over again, then that is where you start getting your full mandala. So I think today we are running out of time, so I can't show you the whole mandala or how to create the entire thing from scratch. But with that same method, here, if you start for this afternoon when you have time, you start doing this, you start separating it all, and then you start adding all the patterns inside. You start adding like for certain parts, if you find it that, oh, maybe I can start drawing it in a sharper zone. Then after that, I'll split it further by adding patterns inside there. Then I think you will start seeing that your own style will come up to be. Everybody will have their own style. Everyone will have their own patience. So it really depends. For me, is the more stress I get, the more detail I will go into my mandala pieces. The more I will move into, I will look into all these details. My patterns will get smaller and smaller. But when I'm in a rush, then it's not neat like this. So the thing is, you need to find a quiet spot. You need to find a quiet space for yourself. Listen to your own music. Be explorative. Try to find out what kind of patterns you enjoy. You don't have to start off with a hard one. You can always start with 2 or 3 patterns for one mandala. Don't go crazy and go like we learned almost 12 patterns this morning. Don't go all crazy and add all of them into one mandala. Try to just enjoy the process of slowly learning and slowly adding to create like once you start adding all the patterns together, then it creates a different. Once you combine two patterns together, then it becomes different. So that is what we want to take home for today. We want you to, I want you to really kind of explore in your own way how you can start moving into all these kind of uh, patterns, and then using your own way. And I hope to see a lot of your artworks in the future. You can always tag me. Like I said, you can always tag me on my Instagram, or you can you can just message me on the Facebook. Uh, and then we can go from there. I don't think we have enough time for today. I think everyone will be tired. It has been 3 hours. So we will. You can always continuously asking me. I can send you some of the patterns as well. You can tell me how. You can show me your works, and then I can teach you more advanced methods from there. Maybe one day, if we have more time, then Pustaka will arrange another session. Then we will move into the more complex Zendalas. Today is more on the basics of how do we get the frame and how do we get the patterns, and then eventually you can explore the mandala in terms of how do you draw a crescent out of circles, how do you draw a specific circular shape out of a circle, using your compass. So there are actually a lot of ways. There's no one right way to do it. So the whole idea is to explore in your own way how you want to how you create your own artworks. Okay, I think Karen, I think we are running out of time.
Okay, yes, it's almost 1 p.m. already.
Yeah.
We do have a few questions, just three questions, very simple ones.
Okay.
Yeah, we can try to do that now. Okay, so the first one is just now Mr. Aaron showed a book, Iban Designer, is it correct?
Yes. Basic Iban designs.
Okay, basic Iban designs. Is it available for sale?
I've been trying this book here. I tried to look for it. I can't find the original book because this book was published in 1988.
Okay.
I think Pustaka can help us with this because it is published by Dewan Bahasa and Pustaka, Ministry of Education, back in 1988. So I'm not sure whether it's still in publication or not.
Okay. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We will look into it. Okay. So the second question is, are you going to share your slides that you showed today?
Do you want me to show? I can always show it. How do I show it?
To share it. Share it to the participants, which means that do you have like a soft copy of it for us to email to the participants, just in case if the participants are interested to have a copy of the slides that you showed today?
Oh, okay. Because the first, I will do one to show the basic patterns one. I will save that and I'll send it to you. Then maybe you can send it to them.
Okay, will do. All right. So the last question is, what is your hopes about Zendala art in the future?
My hope, that is a tough question. My hope is that I can go bigger and bigger with it. The thing is now I'm limited to paper. I'm still trying